Hey guys, welcome back to Unstuck Truck. Today we are getting foam put in the jet ski, finally. Gonna start building this thing back up. And this is gonna be a lot like a game of Tetris, but in 3D, and I get to choose the size of the pieces. All right, so we're putting in some drain plugs. Here's the part number I ordered. They're a two-piece design, obviously, and you just bend this tab in like that. And now you've got basically a retainer. So here's one hole I've drilled. I'm just using a 1-inch hole saw at a really low speed on my drill. So I've started with a pilot hole, and then I believe it's a 1/4-inch pilot bit on this hole saw. So I drilled it out to a 1/4 inch. Placed that basically as far down as I could. So it's gonna look like that. Mark out our screw holes. First drain plug's in. I'm using 3/16 rivets. They ended up working really well. I've got a couple different lengths, and the one that worked well for that drain plug is this one. I think it's a 5/8 rivet. It's either 3/4 or 5/8. On the back of them, I'm putting just a number 10 stainless flat washer. That's giving me a really secure base here, and this is really solid. I threw some of the 3M 4200 behind the plug base, a little bit around the rivet holes too, just to make sure there's no leakage around there. We're gonna move on to the second one here. These holes that I drilled ended up just being 3/16. So I'm going a little excessive on the sealant here just to fill any gaps. Trying to keep this sealant out of the hole where the plug is gonna go, obviously. That's not really where we want it. Yeah, she's a little goopy. Maybe I'll kick myself for that, but grab my two number 10 washers. I'm gonna throw those on the back side for a little extra reinforcement. There we go. So I got my number 10 washers. We're gonna seal up some of the other tubing, some of these cooling lines, the siphon line, the drive shaft tube. I'm gonna throw some of that sealant around as much of this stuff as I can before I start putting foam block in here. All right, so we got the sealing done here, except for the exhaust. Put a good layer around all these inlets, drive shaft tube, steering. I'm gonna work on getting the exhaust installed now. I was having some issues getting that number 10 washer onto the back of the rivet when putting the exhaust back in. So what I did, because I'm not gonna be able to reach back there to put that washer on once the exhaust is in, I took those washers and I put a little bit of grease on my finger, put the washer on the tip of my finger, and then on the back of the washer, put a layer of super glue. So I'm holding this there while the glue sets. That is the current status. Okay guys, we're putting the pipe in now. Pretty excited for this. I've got my number 10 washers stuck to the back side of the hull here. Now I'm gonna throw the sealant on. And the best part, don't even have any on my fingers. There it goes. I think we're good. All right, so here's how we're looking. So the last step here is gonna be to throw some sealant around the other end of the exhaust pipe here. Exhaust pipe is in. I got one washer that stayed at least. Looks like the bottom one maybe did not. Got my pink foam board, got my hot knife, and we're gonna start piecing this stuff in. Okay guys, we are ready to pour this 2-part foam into the back of the Superjet. We've got all of our pink foam board cut up and pieced in here. I've got some kind of shim pieces in these corners so that once I set the SMC panel back on there, it should sit pretty flush, and that'll make the glassing process a lot easier. So each of these are a pint, so total volume's a quart, and it claims that it expands to half of a cubic foot. I did leave some space in the foam down near the drain plugs. That way I'm hoping any water that does get in there should be able to kind of fall to the bottom and then be channeled toward the back, toward the drain plug. So the dark gets poured into the light. Got my stir stick ready. It says only to stir for about 20 seconds. So here we go. It's about 20 seconds. We're gonna give her a pour here. I can hear it. It's pushing. I think in retrospect, I probably would not have poured the foam down the sides here because it could hit the bottom of the ski and then kind of like stop water from getting out the drain plug. Looks like this is starting to push up a bit. Okay, so we've got those holes drilled for the drain plugs. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get water back to those now. And so here's the current state. We've done a little fiberglassing and I'm gonna kind of show you what I've done here. Now the next step is to do this side panel. I got a bunch of equipment through US Composites. They were able to walk me through kind of what I needed and how much. So I've got a variety of different matting. I got some that's a 3-inch, really narrow strip for doing the bottom layer basically. Then I got a 6-inch biaxial. I also got some, this is like 170806. I might put this across the whole tray to reinforce it and make kind of a U shape with that one that covers the whole tray. So we'll see. Anyway, next stop is the side panel here. So I'll show you guys what getting that on looks like. I've got a 3-to-1 ratio that I'm mixing to here. I got some leftover foam board that I'm using as kind of a workspace, and just some really cheap chip brushes to apply the resin to the mat. Also got some little plastic putty knives that I'm using as a squeegee to get some of the air bubbles out. So here we go. So this Cavasil thickens it up a little bit, makes it a little more like a mayonnaise or peanut butter consistency. Kind of keep the resin from flowing down into the crack, basically the crack that I cut. Have a little of that on the cracks. Just getting a thin layer of resin on everything here. And then we will start to get the mat set on. So I think we're ready. Put this on. I want it to be a little more. Okay, got your putty knife. This is actually looking pretty decent. Tuck it into this crack a little bit. That's where a lot of the air comes from, is this crack. Not much I can do about that. Now the real deal. Kind of fade out that resin line. So this is actually lifting a little bit. So we're gonna put a little weight here on top of the saran wrap. So this is kind of a little trick. If you gotta get some weight on there to get it formed right, you can put some saran wrap down, set something heavy on it. Just trying to get this to sit down on here a little better. Okay folks, that's layup 3. I've sanded everything down. I used some 60 grit sandpaper with a power sander. We're now ready to put one more sheet of fiberglass across the entire tray to reinforce it, make sure it doesn't crack in the future. This is going to be the tray reinforcement, just one more layer that's going to go over the top. I've got this the way I want it now. I've got a little more space at the front and some space at the rear, a little bit of a wrap around here. All right, guys, here's the finished layup. Obviously I'm gonna have to do a little sanding. It's a little bumpy here and there. We'll see how this sets up. My initial plan was to only do one layer, so I'd love to keep it to that. The tray was in really good condition starting out, so that's a plus. I'm looking to use this probably as more of a buoy ski than jumping big wakes or putting big loads on the tray. So I'm thinking, I grew up water skiing, and so I really like that feeling of cutting hard into a turn. So that's kind of why I like doing this. So I'm planning to probably use it more for buoys. 4 hours in, we're a little tacky here. Starting to set up, it's looking nice. Got the mellow aroma of setting fiberglass throughout my garage. Let's go. Okay, folks, goodness gracious. Shoot.